argument. I mean, Warren Farrell, who's a very interesting character, wrote a book called Why Men Earn More. And he actually wrote it for his daughters because he was trying to figure out how they could maximize their earning potential across their lifespan. I mean, he wrote it for popular consumption as well, but he identifies all sorts of reasons why men make more money. And they don't make that much more money. So you don't need that many reasons to account for it. But here, men take more dangerous jobs. Men are more likely to move. Men work longer hours. And if you work 14% longer hours, you make 44% money, 44% more money. The return is nonlinear. So men tend to work in industries that are scalable. So women prefer care jobs, or that's not exactly right. Most of the people who are in human care jobs are female. But the problem with those jobs is they don't scale. You can't take care of 10,000 people, but you can provide electronic resources to 10,000 people. So there's all these complicated reasons why men and women differ in their pay, including, for example, that women are more agreeable than men, and agreeable people aren't as good at negotiating on their own behalf with regards to salaries, and that women tend to bail out of high-level positions in their 30s so that they can have kids, which is a perfectly reasonable choice. But that has to be all obliterated because the fundamental truth of the matter is that the West is an oppressive patriarchy, and all differences between groups are to be attributed to oppression. And so you can't even have a discussion about that.
If somebody has fundamentally misunderstood this multivariate analysis to why there could be a gender pay gap, how would they go about attempting to close this gap if they wanted to?
Well, I don't know. The first question is just like, should the gap be closed? The gap is also a very complicated thing. There's a disproportionate number of extremely high paid men, but they're a tiny minority, but they skew the statistics as well. So are you talking about the median person? Or are you talking about the average person? Because the average is the wrong statistic because it includes that tiny proportion of people who make an incredible amount of money, and almost all of them are men. And so the first question is, does the gap exist? And the answer is, well, that's a lot more complicated than you think, and a univariate analysis isn't going to reveal it. The second is, if it does exist, why does it exist?
Let's explain for our listeners what you mean by univariate.
Yeah, univariate, uni means one, and variate means variable. And so if you're not thinking about things in a differentiated manner, you take your ideology, whatever that is, and it has a cause, say oppression, and then you say, well, oppression is causing this disequilibrium. It's like, well, it's possible, and no doubt somewhat true, but there's many, many other factors that have to be considered, especially if you're going to address it seriously. And we're not capable in the least of having serious conversations of this sort. I never hear, when people are worried about differential representation of men and women in occupations, I never hear people, women, let's say, who are concerned about this, or the leftists who are concerned about this, complaining about the fact that 99% of the bricklayers are men. But they are. You can go on the U.S. Department of Labor site and you can rank order occupations by gender. And there's the heavy trades are overwhelmingly male represented. Those are hard, grueling, difficult jobs. They tend to pay quite well. It's like, why don't we see the radical leftist types who are beating the drum for equality, concentrating on the disproportionate number of men who occupy trades positions? Well, those aren't the high-end, high-status jobs, and apparently those are the only ones that matter. But there's no reason that they matter. And what about the disproportionate number of men in prison? Are we going to do gender equation for prison cells? I've heard feminist scholars seriously propose that, by the way, which is, to me, is just, it's a sign of absolute insanity.
And if somebody wanted to go about, the part of this pay gap that is related to an unfair prejudice against women, you concede that part of it may well be.
Well, it may be.
Yeah. So if somebody...
I don't think the evidence for that is strong, actually. Okay. If you do the controls, you actually find that in many situations now, especially for young single people, women have a wage advantage, not a disadvantage.
That may change as they continue, though, no?
Oh, yes. Well, the motherhood issue is a killer, right? And that's something that our society needs to sort out, but we don't know how.
It's life-giving, not a killer.
Well, that's it. It's hard on your career progression. Yeah.